Okay, cool. So let's get started. Sometimes let's just call it out. So a big thing that people get stuck with is perfectionism, like wanting to get things right, or thinking there is a right or wrong, or putting a lot of pressure on themselves to make what they're creating be a thing. So today, let's leave that to the side. We are experimenting, we are playing, and we're actually enjoying the process of not knowing what's going to happen, not planning, really just letting ourselves explore. We don't do this enough in life, and it's just no one's fault. There's a lot of pressure put on us to get things right, to make sure that all the effort we put in has an outcome. But today I invite you to just let that go. So let's open up our book. And if you don't have a paper journal, you can just get a piece of paper and do exactly the same thing. Like, don't be fooled by the format of this. You can do this with anything, but this is a gorgeous way to interact with our bags. So I'm going to start with my Sharpie, and I'm really loving landscapes at the moment. So in my mind, I'm making landscapes, but really I'm just starting to make marks. So find a spot to start with your Sharpie, plop it down, and slowly just letting your mark making tool, whether it's a Sharpie or an oil pastel or pencil, just start to explore the pages, like really slowly. So really noticing like the tip of your mark making tool and slowing it all down. Remembering to breathe. Not holding your breath. Even I notice I'm holding my breath a little bit as I'm doing this. So I'm like, oh, Mary-Helen, you have to remember to speak and say stuff, but not really. So we're just going to find one line to take us all the way to the end. You might already be doing something a little different, inspired by your paper. But if you're stuck for where to go, yeah, just follow along, follow that line all the way to the end. All right. So nice and simple. There we've got a very interesting line. Little interesting bits, because my paper is popping up. It's like a 3D terrain. And I'm almost imagining a little ant has kind of wibbled and wobbled its way through here. You know how they kind of like walk along in this kind of funny little ant way. So I'm already kind of in my imagination of who's making this pathway. So that's a bit of a line, and you could go back into that and add in more things. You could scribble all over it, or just one line. Let's have a look at it from another angle. Hey, yeah, from this side it's different again. It's like the mountain range, or it could be where the sea is coming in, and oh, here's your toes about to get wet by the ocean. It could be the oozing of oh, I shouldn't say oozing, the you know, the icing on the cake close up, kind of coming down onto the sponge of the cake. So many ideas. All right, so that's that. Let's grab an oil pastel. I'm making this up as I go. I just thought, yeah, I'm gonna grab some stuff and see what happens. I'm just gonna color in a little bit. So these are oil pastels, which means they're water resistant. So I did want to have a little play with just how this paper, because you know, this isn't necessarily meant to have art made on it. I just wanted to see how this paper goes with taking the oil pastel, the Sharpie, and then eventually watercolor. So I'm just going to color in a little bit. Feeling orange is my vibe today, but I wonder what color your vibe is today. What are you attracted to today in colors? And don't worry about all the bumps that live under the bag, just let them be part of the experience. I'm getting volcano vibes. And maybe a little bit of red. Yeah, picking some colours that you want to use, you want to explore. No right or wrong, just exploring, and just giving yourself some time to explore. Alrighty, oh yeah, I'm feeling, let's do some green, and this time I'm just gonna do some random squiggles around. So find some random dots, squiggles. I'm putting a lot of pressure on this. I can really feel pushing down. I could do some little soft ones as well, little flicks. So how can you use your mark making tool to just make some marks? Okay, cool. So now just taking that in again, that's changed it. So we've gone from line to now using color and then marks to kind of change it again. Let's have a little close of our book to just see what's happened so far. Yeah, look, it's kind of interesting, isn't it? A little story that's going on. All right, so now let's have a play with some watercolor. Let's see how it interacts with this bag. Again, I'm not totally sure. Sometimes it's when it's dried, it's really going to tell us what's happening. You can use any brush. I've got one of these nice kind of juicy brushes with a nice tip on it. It's really a soft brush, which works really well with watercolor. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to pick a color, and I'm feeling like it's blue because I've got all this orange, and I can't help the artist in me knowing that blue and orange are complementary colors. So I know they're going to vibe together very well. So with watercolor, especially if you're using a cake palette, you actually want to put the water in, put it on top of it, the cake, to activate the pigment, and you actually want to let it sit there for at least 20 seconds. And so you can sing happy birthday to yourself, like a verse of that, and by the end of that, it'll be activated. If you use it before that time, you just put water on and go, you just won't get the vibrancy of the color pigment. But if you're happy to wait, you'll get a really beautiful color. And I always say this to people in workshops, but we're frantically making art, so we're never waiting, we're just too excited. So, but ideally, if you've got the time, you get the richest color when you wait, you know. All right, so I've got that on there. You can see, isn't that a beautiful blue? All right, and then the invitation here is to same as the Sharpie, let the watercolor brush explore. Look at that. So watercolor does its own thing, so different to the Sharpie, so different to the oil pastels, right? The way it delivers its marks is just, yeah, there's not a lot of control in that. So this is a really good activity for your brain, where you like, don't think, just put some watercolor down. And I can layer it up. When I say layer it up, we're really just adding more onto the wet. Oh, look at that, going over the top of the oil pastels. So we know that oil pastels are resistant to water. So it's interesting to see how that is going to behave. What was I saying? That's right, I was saying layering, not so much. We're just adding more on. And so we're just going on top of the watercolor that already exists, so it'll just get darker if I'm using the same color. And remember to breathe. Remember to breathe. Slow, not necessarily slow it down, but really, there's no rush here. We're not trying to get anywhere. We're trying to be right here. Be right here in this moment. Notice what's happening. Cool. So just like wow. Like these oil pastels, some of them are fluoro, and just I can't, that's the only way I can describe it, just wow. Look at that. It's like, look how the watercolor paint sits on top of the oil pastels. Just like all these very delicious moments happening on here, for me at least. This is, I wonder what's happening for you. Like I'd love to know what colors you chose, and you know, what shape you chose. Like, yeah, because any given day you'll do something different. Yeah, the watercolor is going to dry eventually. Might take maybe an hour or something, depending on the weather. And that's when I'll really get to see what the color looks like. So right now, it's not representative of how it's going to look, because paint has to dry, and usually paint, depending on the type of paint, it's either going to dry a little lighter or a little darker. We find out. But there's some nice moments happening as I'm seeing some things, like this is already starting to dry because it was such a light wash. And once it's dry, then you really, oh, I can do some dripping here. Yeah, so I can get experimental, spontaneous. Release the spontaneousness in you. Like there's just, this is not precious in terms of like how it's gonna look at the end. The preciousness is the moments you take where you go, oh, I want to try that. And you don't let that voice that sits in the back of your head saying, oh, no, 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 you'll wreck it. No, that's the creative urge kind of coming through, that impulse. Just give it a go. Like there's more paper bags in the world, right? So that's the voice you want to listen to, where you just try something, you know, and the risks are so low. That's why I love creative stuff, because low risk, but big payoff in terms of really trusting yourself. All right, so, and that's the whole business I'm in, is learning to trust yourself through creativity, because we know that in the rest of our life, taking risks can be really scary, and they can be risks, right? But starting to really get into understanding how things are working, really feeling what's right for you, then you know they're not risks, they're really opportunities, and that it's okay if not everything works out in life. All right, segueing somewhere else, let's come back to this, Mary-Helen. All right, so I've got this area down here. I'm going to flip it. Wahaha. Ah, look at that. It's hard for me not to just have absolute delight. Just like look at that bit. Seriously, it's so good. Okay, so next, I want to treat, I'm going to call it treating. I want to give this area something, and I've got that lovely green, and I'm just like, what color do I want to use? I can't really decide. So when I can't decide, I'm actually going to close my eyes. I'm going to wet my brush. I'm going to close my eyes, and I'm going to just actually let my paintbrush decide on something. I don't know what color. I haven't opened my eyes. I go to pink. Wow. Well, you know that's going to go pretty well. So I'm going to let that just activate. Yeah, pink and green go so good together. Okay, I've got some nice pink there. But it's a good way to like use colors that don't go well together, or yeah, play with what colors really work. And when I say they go good together, like what does that even really mean? Because it's not like these, I don't know the names of any of these colors. They don't come with names, right? Who knows what these actual pigments are. This is like a kid's palette. I love kind of using those kind of materials because, again, not precious. I'm not gonna be like, oh, I don't want to waste this. I'm gonna go, yeah, great, these are ready to be used. And I'm gonna go in and do exactly what I was doing with the other side, and remember to breathe. So I can do a really light wash. Oh, a little bit of blue coming through there to mix. Now, usually when I'm using watercolor, I would say heaps and heaps of water. But we're not using watercolor paper. Even though this is pretty thick, you can see it's already pretty wet. Watercolor paper really takes water, right? It doesn't it's so, the way that it's made, is different from normal paper that you use, and it's made in such a way that it's almost like a net catching the water, and that's why it's so strong, and that's why when it dries it's just as strong as when it wasn't wet. So this paper will get wet and sodden and tear. That's why I'm being pretty generous with my water, but not so much that it's gonna tear apart. But maybe tearing apart is kind of fun. Alright, so interesting. I'm feeling like, I know it feels almost silly to put brown in because it's a brown bag, but you know, I can see I don't use this color very much, so I want to give it a chance to be in there. So I'm going to pop that on the top, and I'm just playing with the edge there, edge of the brush and edge of the paper. I'm just letting my brush not even touch everything, it's just bumping over the top, so this way you can play with the angle of your brush. Put a little brown in there. Now when it dries I'll be able to see how those two colors kind of interact, but I love it already. It's got this kind of mahogany, like chocolatey, pinky, I'm thinking like one of those chocolates that has like strawberry cream in it. That's the feel I'm getting from that. I wonder what you're discovering. Hopefully you're doing this along with me. This is such a great opportunity to hang out. And as I said, you could use this process with anything, a piece of paper, a box. Of course, you can't fold the box into a book, but yeah. So that's kind of it, right? Let's just leave that. That's heaps. So we dragged a line across our book. We put some marks on the page in response to the lines, or I responded, and then I had to play with just random marks and how I could use my oil pastels. And then we responded again with watercolour, choosing colours that you like or you're interested in and putting them on the page. And now we're going to just let it dry, and once it's dried, that's when we'll really know what we've got, because that will reveal so much that we couldn't see in our process. So I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to come back and show you what that looks like and just have some final thoughts. So I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so it's almost dry. It's not completely dry, but you can see how things are lighter now. So when it was wet, obviously it was much darker. But yeah, there's some lovely little moments there. And let's have a go at folding the book closed. Aha! Pretty fun. So that's it. That's how you do your journal. I'm definitely going to do the back of this. I'm going to do exactly what I did, or almost what I did on the back, so that I've got a complete book. And I'm going to do that now. And so if you want to do that too and join me for that, you can. My cat's just arrived. Say hello to Pico. Hey, Pico. He is a crazy art cat, and he also loves making art. This time I'm going to actually start with oil pastel, and I'm going to just scribble. Scribble, 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 scribble. This can be a nice one to do with your non-dominant hand. I'm just using my dominant hand. Just scribble and do more scribbles. Scribbling. Kind of need one hand to hold it down. Yes, thank you, Pico. And scribble. Scribble, scribble, scribble. Not being precious, just scribbling in. I just want to see what I can do with this. So these are oil pastels. Cool. I think a big wash of watercolour over this could be really nice. So I'm going to have a go at that. Now, Pico, what colour should we choose? You want to tell me which one to choose? I think he said orange. Is that right? he doesn't speak anything but cat, so we don't know. So I'm going to activate my orange and just going to go straight in and run it across the top. I'm not going to be precious about completing that. I like that just how it is. More water and a wash over the top. Ooh, that's interesting. You can already see some really... Oh, Pika, you've got your hand in there. Can I just get you out for a moment? Thank you. Can see how that's already interacting with the oil pastel, and so that oil pastel is a metallic one, so it's like got a nice shine to it. It's like some secret writing, you know, on a book coming to life. You know, it's magic. I'm just gonna move that out of the way, and I'm gonna jump over to yellow, I think. So I didn't wash my brush very well there. I've just put a bit of orange in my yellow. Do wash your brush properly in between. That's how you preserve your art materials. Like, I'm all for mess and play, but also the order part of you know, keeping colors separate in the palette is a good idea, rather than putting other colors on top of other pigments, because you can't really rescue them after that. So that is where I would bring in some order into my art making, just with the preservation of my art materials. Breathing, remember to breathe. Remember to breathe, what does that really mean? I guess it's more actually about noticing how you're breathing. I notice sometimes when I'm really kind of about to do something, there's this like apprehension, but what if I take a breath in and then let myself breathe out and breathe with the mark I'm making, just as an experiment. What is that like? Okay. And a bit of paper towel to dab off your brush can be good too, to just remove any excess colour. I think purple's calling to me. Gonna just wait for that. It's a nice little pause there to just notice what I've already done. And I actually love these gaps where I've just left nothing. They're like these little whispers of colour, and like wispy clouds almost. Alright, I reckon we're ready. Yeah, I can kind of tumble the brush like this. I'm gonna add more water. I think more water is a good one. Alright, and then there we go. This one's quite faint, this pigment at the moment. And of course I'm working against the colour of the page as well. Oh, there we go. So if I press down with the whole of my brush, I'm getting a lot more colour than when I was just kind of tumbling the tip of it. Ooh. Yes, lots of oohs and ahs from over here. Do you ever notice that while you're making art on your own, the noises? Like sometimes I am humming away like a little song. It's not a real song, I'm just humming. And that's how I know I'm like really in a happy spot. And in this moment I notice, oh, it's feeling a bit muddy, these colours. And I'm just noticing how that feels for me, like, and where I kind of feel that in a little bit of my stomach, like, ugh. but I also know it's got to dry. So I'm going to just actually leave it. And also it's so fun for things to be muddy. Muddy is, muddy is when you've made a, I guess in art terms, it's when you've mixed colours together that are maybe too similar. Like they're both warm tones, or they're both cool tones, and so you get there's not enough of the opposites to really make the colour pop. And that's okay, because maybe you do want to make a muddy tone. And even though I've chosen here purple and yellow, so obviously they're complementary colours, because red and blue make purple, right? And yellow is a primary colour, so when you match them against each other, they should harmonise. They're not quite harmonising here. I wonder if I had chosen a cooler yellow, like a more lemony yellow, if that potentially would have kind of popped a bit. Now, we don't really need to think about that. That's just my art mind of like, oh, what else could I have tried to experiment there? And it's not a critique, it's just me noticing. And again, it's got to dry. I'm gonna let it dry first so you can really see what you're looking at. Yeah, one of the things that I've done definitely is overwork something and not given it a chance to really reveal what's happening. And so just letting it dry is going to tell me so much about how I feel about it. At the same time, I'm pretty jazzed about this. I'm pretty happy with it. Let's turn it around. I think that's interesting, and I know that when I fold it into a book, it's going to become like mini artworks. So if we go over to this side, how that one's drying, yes, we can look at it as a whole, but also if we just fold it down, then you've got these little moments happening, right? Little moments of a story. So we can look at the big picture, or we can look at the more intimate details that we might sometimes miss out on while we're looking at the big, huge picture. Yeah, but I'm pretty happy about that. So I'm gonna let that dry and come back and just see what it looks like. Potentially I might add more to it, or I might just leave it. It doesn't have to be beautiful. Like, it's just playing with the art materials. But I am sharing what I'm noticing, because I know this comes up for people, and what tends to happen is they stop. They go, oh, I don't like it, I've ruined it, I want to start again. This happens so much. Can I have a new piece of paper? I ruined this. I'm like, can I have a new canvas? I want to start my painting again. Huh. At which point I say, paint over it in white, because canvases can be painted over. We're not wasting canvases, right? So people hate when I say that, but that is the answer. And also give it a chance. Like, there can be a real disconnect, and I understand this comes into different ways people have been conditioned, and also the ways different brains kind of view things when they maybe haven't had experiences where they've had stuff broken down for them to see. So like, if you're a person who just has a big picture but you don't know how to get there in terms of steps, then you might draw something and be like, oh, well, that's not how it looked in my mind, and so therefore it's not any good, and I want a new piece of paper, I want to start again, I can't do this. It might descend into all of those kind of things. I see this constantly in all my work, where the workspaces I work in. And there's just a disconnect there sometimes of understanding that things are processes, and you've got to let there be some breathing space for things to happen, and you've got to let yourself learn and try and not be perfect, which is always my takeaway. But yeah, even I'm just sharing that I get that same thing too. But I don't let it stop me. I just go, yeah, I don't like that so much. I don't like those colors. Cool, I'm glad I tried them out. I probably won't pick them again in the same format. But I tried them, they're here. And I might do something else to this. I might add in some metallic Sharpie. I might go back in and draw into the line. Yeah, right? That's what I'm going to do. So, live session here. when I don't like something, I start thinking about what else can I do with it, right? I don't go, oh, I'm going to rip it up, I'm going to throw it out. I go, okay, well, it's already something I don't like, so it's no longer precious, just like the paper bag, right? And I should just let it dry, but I want to show you how I'm going to work with this, because this is sometimes what I can't really share with people because we're in group environments and there's not enough time to be one-to-one with someone to say, hey, here's another way to use it. But yeah, so it's drying really nice right now, but I'm feeling the urge to do this. Am I going to use a Sharpie, or am I going to use a finer tip? So I'm feeling like detail could be just so nice for this, like little details based on how things are drying. So this is how I'm working through my resistance to or my dissatisfaction with what I'm seeing. And actually, I'm not going to use a Sharpie. I feel like because there's so many bold marks on there, I actually want some really fine detail. So I'm going to go grab a fine liner marker. I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back. I've got a pencil and I've got one of these Faber-Castell Pit Artist brush pens. It's meant to be waterproof. I don't use these so much. I actually just love ballpoint pens for drawing, like the inky ones. So I don't mind using this because I'm not too fussed about it. I got the pencil because I don't know, maybe there's something in there. Even just the colors are nice to me. Okay, so what am I going to do here? I'm actually going to come down and start finding some of these really interesting little moments at the edge of the watercolor, because there's just so many interesting little shapes where the watercolors, it's met an invisible boundary. And I don't know why, it's just because of how the paper teared when I was taking it apart. It's made a texture where the watercolor kind of skipped over and just didn't go any further, or maybe my brush was too dry. These are the little delicious moments that if you are an artist or someone who's creative, you look for these in paintings, you look for these in people's art, and you go, oh wow, that's so nice. Those little moments where the materials just did their own thing. Already I'm really jazzed about that. So I'm just going to bring you up a bit. Interesting, right? Just bringing in a lightweight line. Really interesting. Okay, I'm going to keep going. And I made some really interesting marks on my counter there. Okay, so now I'm going to come in around here. Again, I'm not looking for perfection. I'm just trying some stuff out. What works here? And if I also invite myself to not care about the outcome and explore these little shapes that have happened in here, and how can I interact with these shapes? I can create new shapes. Just kind of finding my own way and taking the preciousness out of it, taking the pressure out of it, taking the judgments out of it. Why do I need to judge an experiment as being, worth my time? Or, yeah, actually that statement, worth my time. Does everything I do in my life have to have an outcome where I feel proud of it, or have to show someone, or, yeah, there's a lot in there to unpack. So I wonder, when you've been making your marks and your journal, I wonder what thoughts have come up for you. You might have had moments of delight, and you might have had moments of disgust, or disillusionment, oh, this doesn't look like how she's doing it, or why did I even bother? Or you might be wow, this is amazing. So they're just thoughts, right? They're critiques. Usually it's leans towards good or bad. That tends to be what our mind is geared towards. But we can just see them as thoughts, like, yep, that's a thought, just like that's a mark. And then just come back to the actual sensory experience. So the sound of your art materials, interacting with the surface. The far sounds in your environment too, so like off in the distance you might be hearing sounds of traffic, or depending on your time of day or where you are, maybe you can hear some nature sounds, birds, breeze, crickets. And then coming back to the more intimate sounds around you. Could be the sounds of appliances just humming away in the background, doing their work. And tuning into the sound of your breath. Feeling your breath, actually. Noticing where your breath is in your body. Or while you're making art, and that is a nice way to take the focus off what you're doing and just actually get into a state of making marks, responding without thinking, right? Just tuning in, kind of tuning, I want to say tuning out, balancing the internal with the external stimulus. Okay, so I'm like really enjoying this. I wonder how it is for you. You don't have to enjoy it, but I'm glad I mentioned that I wasn't enjoying what I was seeing, and that rather than turning that into a story about me failing or, oh, I've done it, what a waste of time, whatever that could be for me, it could be, oh gosh, I just really don't like it. You don't have to like everything you make. And actually, if you just remove the having to like it or it having to be good, what else can it be? It can just be a place to try stuff out. Need more spaces to just try stuff out and not be so goal orientated. I can hear my cat in the background doing some things, so I'm going to just pause for a moment and I'll be right back. Alright, and of course the other thing is you don't have to finish it all in one go. This could be a creative practice that you do a little bit on each day. So maybe you just do the marks one day, and then maybe the next day you do a little bit of watercolour, and you do a little bit more watercolour, and then maybe another day you go, oh yeah, that's right, Mary-Helen said, why not add in some more, you know, contrast in terms of like bold lines and fine lines. And of course this is all invitational. You might just actually draw an image, you know, you might just do an actual landscape. You might have a word that you put on here. Gosh, there are so many ways to approach this. And look, it's almost dried, and in it drying, the colors are actually quite nice. I like them now. Again, it's hard not to default back to the liking thing, right? But I'm into it. So let's have a little look. But I think those finer lines really made it more interesting for me in terms of exploring and seeing that there's other little things happening in there that are quite interesting. Yeah, cool. And that would be an example of working with the resistance that comes through judgments, right? Like, how can we flip that and turn that into an opportunity to try something new, divert from where we were going? Not that I had a big plan for what we were going to do. All right, so that's it, right? Now we've completed the front and the back of our book. if you've been journeying along with me. I just realized there's a whole inside to explore. But for today, that's enough. I know my bag needs to dry a bit, but yeah, that's very satisfying in terms of exploration. So that is part 2 and part 3, it seems, of exploring making a paper bag journal and then finding some ways to interact with it and test out and try things, and yeah, work that creative muscle. So if you do share with me what you came up with. I would love to see. Make sure you like and also subscribe to this channel, because I will be posting more videos